Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to take a look at a couple of comics that you may want to consider sending in to be graded if you happen to have them in your collection. This is a great way to invest some dollars back into the collection versus going out buying new books. So we're going to identify a couple of books that you may want to think about. And what we're going to be doing is roughly using a cost of about $70. And this includes grading costs, clean press, ship, maybe acquisition cost. If you bought the book a while ago, we're going to put all of those in there and just assume a cost of $70. And we're going to use that to evaluate whether we send these books in or not. Before we get to the books, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the sponsor of this video, Comics Price Guide. What's fantastic about this website is, one, not only is it the largest database out there of priced comics, both raw and graded, but there's also some great resources on this website that can help you make more informed decisions about your collection. Not only can you organize the collection, but as I mentioned, it gives you an ability to track the values of your comics. If you happen to be buying and selling, I encourage you to check out the website using the link down in the description. With that said, let's go ahead and get to our first book. And the first one, I think, is a cool book. This is a book that I have never spoken about before. This is Adventure into Fear number 19. And this book is the first appearance of Howard the Duck. He is unnamed, but he does appear on multiple pages, multiple panels in this book, Adventure into Fear issue number 19. So we're going to look at the values of this one. And again, we are using an all-in cost of around $70 to evaluate. So in column one, well, the middle column, I should say, we have our raw comic book values. In the far right column, we have our graded values there. So we're going to be taking a look really at this last column on the right hand side, and maybe make this a little bit bigger so that you guys can see that. But as you go down the list, you can see the values start to come down, which makes a whole lot of sense. So the question becomes, where might we want to draw the line for this book to decide to send it in or not based upon our all-in cost? And personally, I would draw the line right here at the 7.0, fine to very fine. And a raw comic value is $113.50. The graded 7.0 is $190. And again, we are assuming a cost of $70 all in. You'll have to adjust based upon what you may have paid, what services you need, which grading company you're going to use, etc. But for me, the 7.0 at a value of $190 makes a whole lot of sense versus where you're talking about the 6.5, right? 6.5, I think there's not a ton of them at graded at a 6.5, but that value at $130 also just gives me a little pause as to where it might wax and wane. I feel much more comfortable with this book at a 7.0. Where you draw the line will be something that you have to decide, but a really cool book that unfortunately I do not own. I do not have, I don't think I have any Adventure into Fear in the collection, but definitely a cool cover right there. Who did the art on this? Let me go back and look and see who did this. Who did the cover art? Gil Kane. Gil Kane did the cover art, and the interior is done by Val. I'm not going to attempt to say Val's name there. You guys can figure that one out for yourself. But a cool book from 1973. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our next comic. And the next one also is an older book. Again, sometimes we have great books in our collection, and the goal is to bring those books to the surface and spend a couple of bucks and invest into the collection. So the next book is a cool one. This is Captain America issue number 137. I selected this book because it is, I believe, the first time that Falcon, who is now Captain America, meets Spider-Man. And like most things in comics, two heroes come together. They assume one of them is bad or evil. They attack one another, and then they realize that they have a common foe that they must unite against. This is essentially the story of Captain America 137 and also 138, but you also get Cap on the cover, Falcon, and Spider-Man on the cover of this one. Really great cover by Sal Buscema. I think that is the correct pronunciation of Sal's name. I've heard it several different ways, but I think that that is the correct way. I'm confident somebody will tell me if that is right or wrong, but let's go ahead and take a look at the values of this one. And again, orientation is still the same. First column, we have the condition or the grade. Middle column is the raw values, and the far right are the graded values. So we're going to work our way down this, and you see the values of this one start to fall off a little more quickly than the Adventure into Fear did. And the question is, where would I draw the line? I personally would draw the line with this book at the 9.2. The 9.2 near mint is actually where I would draw the line here. The raw version sells for $43.23, or has a value, I should say, of $43.25. Sorry, messed that all up. But the graded comes in at about $185. And again, if we are assuming an all-in cost of about $70, gives me a little bit of cushion. Gives me a little bit of cushion with this particular book. And again, if you pay peanuts for this book in your collection, you may want to go down to the 9.0 that has a value of $115. Again, I like to have a little more cushion, so I would go with the 9.2. Near mint minus is where I would draw the line with this one. And this one, the cover of this one is by the late John Romita Sr. I actually just took down, I think that's a John Romita Sr., or is it interior pages by him? Sal did the cover. I want to say the interior pages are John Romita. Let's look. No, I am completely wrong on that one. Completely wrong on that. You have my apologies there. My notes. I blame the notes. The notes are wrong, but there you go. There's the data on the creators behind this project. All right. So we're going to look at one last book. We're going to look at one last book here that is almost a no-brainer. This book is almost a no-brainer, but I will tell you, I have a couple of copies of this one in the collection, and I have not sent them in. I have not sent them in because the grades aren't quite where I need them to be to give me the comfort to actually send them in and know that they're still going to be in positive territory with the waxing and the waning of values. And we see that a lot with comics. So this one here is Daredevil issue number 168. This is the first appearance of Elektra. She appears on the cover in shadow, but she also appears in this book as well. This is some wonderful Frank Miller art, and I think art. So again, at least I was able to get that one right using the data that is found here on comicspriceguide.com. All right, so let's go ahead and glance at our values for this one. And we're going to make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see this. And again, as you go down that very last column, the graded value, these values look a little different from what we just saw in terms of you can go deeper, if you will, or sorry, lower on the grade and still retain some value. Again, this is one of the great things about being able to look at data. It gives you a little bit of comfort to know how this book is performing. So with this specific book, I would draw the line at the 5.5. 5.5, which is fine minus, is where I'm choosing to draw it. At this grade, the book has a value graded at $152. Raw is $140. I think that this is the absolute lowest that I would go with this one. I personally would feel comfortable being a little higher than that, but I wanted to draw the line in the sand for those folks that may have a mid-grade copy of this book. And again, $150 minus the $70 all in cost isn't terrible. You'll have to make the adjustments again based upon how much you paid for the book, which grading company you use, and which services you access. But again, fantastic book. There's no doubt about that. You know, whether you keep this book raw and put it in a Mylar, or you ultimately send it into to be graded, it is a great book to have in one's collection. And I think I could say that probably about the other books as well. But there you have it. That is essentially this installment of, grade these comics. I hope that you all enjoyed this. And if you did, I definitely want to encourage you to give the video a thumbs up. If you have some comments, be certain to leave those down below. And if you want to reach out to me, you can do that. You can do it on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yo, should you practice art? Or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it. Not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, the one that's gonna be a master, the one that's more than a rapper, the one that's an educator, the one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts, he's got the mindset expansive. He understands that his time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan, straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms of pure souls having them conversations. Synergy and combinations. You fly and we waiting. Indian style and the gold.